Good evening, everybody. Professor Mani, welcoming you on behalf of Bombay Management Association. I guess many of us who are from Bombay are experiencing heavy rains since morning, but fortunately, because of us being in a digital world, we already have 40 people who are in our conference today to listen to Mr. Venugopal Nair on this very interesting topic of how has consumer behavior evolved? How has consumer behavior changed post-COVID or in the current COVID scenario? And what are some of the projections in time to come? I'm delighted to share with you that thanks to the support of so many BMA members and their guests and other industry professionals, we have been able to host around 50 such webinars till date. And along with my team, we are hoping to host 100 by the end of March 31st year ending. So do continue to be part of this learning journey with us. Just to share with you in advance that next week we have a very interesting session on blockchain technologies. And the one after that will focus on battling with cancer. So we're looking at a varied range of topics which people can benefit by during this interaction with us. As we always do, you are on mute, and after the presentation, we shall have questions in the chat box and also encourage you to interact with Mr. Venugopal. He is a veteran from the field of marketing, consumer behavior, and retailing. In a way, he's a super specialist in the consumer durables industry. After completing his MBA from the renowned Annamalai University, went on to look at different career options in this domain of consumer durables. We often tease him that he is the household man because a lot of stints that he has done involve household products such as furniture, furnishings, and the likes of the same. His last major assignment full-time basis was with Hometown, which all of us know is an extremely revered brand of great reputation. Currently, he is dabbling between Mumbai and Kerala, where he is on an assignment with the Nitco Tiles Group on a retainer basis. We now request Mr. Venugopal Nair to commence his session on consumer behavior, the evolving patterns. Thank you very much for readily agreeing to be part of this learning journey at BMA, and we welcome you on behalf of the entire BMA family. Over to Mr. Venugopal Nair. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, real or virtual, as you might choose.
Namaste and good evening.
Good evening.
So it's my association with Professor Mani dates back to I think 2007 onwards. We have been associating with him, with his institute, as well as on multiple occasions we had interactions in terms of management activities. So when I came, actually in between, I was there abroad handling an assignment with Landmark Group in Dubai, and just reached back in February. So that was the time I just happened to connect to Professor Mani and said that I'm back in India. So immediately he said that, okay, you will have to do a session for BMA. I said, okay, let me just see. I took up another assignment during that period. So during this period, I think it was completely unprecedented or unexpected turn of events which had happened during these past 8-9 months, which is going on. So I don't want to use the word change because even though the topic said that changing trends in the consumer behavior, I did not want to talk it as change. Change is something which will come back again. Okay, it can be corrected. So it's an evolution, and I've specifically selected the word called evolution. And I will just walk you through how the evolution in the consumer behavior has happened in few of the centuries, or from the time the human beings have started living together. Okay. And then I take you to the current scenario and how we anticipate things to turn around. These are all predictions because I don't want to go by the survey reports published by multiple agencies, because there were reports from multiple consultants which had come in the month of April. Then it has moved into the month of May. When it came in the month of July and August, it has become completely new report which has come. So it is changing. So because the type of the pandemic which we are going through is something which we cannot stop right now, because we don't know when it is going to come to an end. So the reports keep on modifying. So I don't want to go through that. I'm looking forward to a slightly longer spectrum, a short term as well as slightly mid term and a longer term, how the consumer is likely to change. So to establish that, I'm trying to bring in some sort of analogy in term from the time the consumers started evolving. So I start with the scientist who has predicted on theory of evolution. So Charles Darwin in 1809 said, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change is what is surviving. I think it is a very, very apt communication from Charles Darwin, which is going to be time immemorial, which is going to remain in the days to come also. So I'm looking at how the evolution, so this is about the evolution of the human beings, and then their behaviors also evolve accordingly. So basically, I'm trying to put it as the waves of evolution. So when I'm looking at the waves of evolution, there's a world-renowned author, Alvin Toffler, in his book Third Wave. He talked about 3 eras in the human togetherness. The first era was the agriculture era, which he says that which continued for 1800 years. It took to mature to certain level. The second era has become the industrial era, because these are the eras where the disruptions have happened. So the second era was the industrial era, and the third era is the information era. Industrial era continued for almost 200 years, whereas the information era is going to continue for another maybe a few decades, and then something else might come. So I'm just running through these 3 eras. So in agriculture era, when you're looking at, I'm looking at consumer experience, how is the consumer behaving that point of time? It was a barter system. There was nothing called, the currency was not defined that point of time. The currency was a need-based currency which was there. So if I want to buy a cow, I go and give a cow to a person who has got something else. I needed something else. So the person was looking forward to buying some vegetables or coconut. So I exchanged that cow for the vegetables or the coconut. But when he has got coconut, he wanted to buy some, or I want to buy some land, I say that, okay, this particular land, I'm going to give 5 cows. So the currency was, the value of the currency was varying. So the consumer behavior was like, it was varying like depending on the need basis. And generally it happened in a very, very small spectrum of area. And it was by word of mouth. And at times, some sort of marketplaces which has happened for these sort of transactions. Then hit the second wave, which is basically started with the industrial revolution and industrial era, where currency has become the first disruptor. Currency has brought in value. So then there has been places where people started accumulating and started selling. So it has changed the consumer behavior, whereby the consumer does not have to give a product to buy another product. Instead of that, they started giving a specific value for the product, what they wanted to pay. So it has become the mom and pop stop which has popped up. So what was the scenario of a mom and pop store? The mom and pop store was, most of them were neighborhood stores. So he himself as the solution provider, whatever you need for that small society or community which is around that particular showroom, was his catchment, where he was giving solution to them. He himself was an influencer. He used to say what brand I will give you, and he was promoting the brand according to his choice, but he was giving a personalized service. He knew the consumer by in and out of the consumer. Then he was giving home delivery if needed. He was giving microcredits. He knew what is the need for you. And he knew the family when it is expanding, what is additional required for that family. When the family is moving in, or when the family is growing from one particular stage to another stage, what are their needs growing up? Okay, so the concerns were that you get what only he is selling. There were transparency issues. You didn't know, there was no specific price point written down anywhere, and then saying that he gives you at 10 rupees and the other guy might be given at 15 rupees. He deals only with cash. Quality is something which you cannot determine. There was no freedom for selection. What he gives is you have to take. If you don't like it also, you have no other option. You have to be loyal to him. You cannot keep on shuffling his showroom or shop to another people. where the seller was more powerful than the buyer. That was the second experience wave which consumer had to go through. I think then the industrial era matured to a certain level where the supermarkets or the hypermarkets started stepping into the consumer spectrum. This has actually democratized the entire shopping experience for the consumer, because you don't have to depend on certain people to come and serve you. You can shop on your way. It has become a family shopping area. You get what you want. You can pick up what you want. You had large variety to pick up from. There has been, on the of late, it has become that there has been acceptance for the electronic payment method. No restriction to loyalty. You go there, don't go there, it doesn't matter. There has been transparency in transactions where your prices are being displayed properly. So you had a chance to decide whether you want to buy this, not to buy this, depending upon, and it is not that the prices vary for customer to customer. So, and there were offers which were being given by these supermarkets or hypermarkets. But there were challenges for the consumer there also. One was that there was no personalized service. So if you have got a challenge, there is hardly anybody to help you out. You have to survive with the brands they want to keep. Again, it is not that you can pick up whatever brand of your choice across the world, what is available there. The other fault is that there is no credit facility. So you didn't have a choice of buying in small quantities or the quantity which your family likes to have. There had been standardization in terms of the packaging and offerings. And it was largely an urban phenomenon. It was not a rural phenomenon at that point of time. So this is the wave 2 which had happened. This was of the second half of the industrial era. Then came the biggest game changer, the first disruptor, second disruptor. The first disruptor was the currency. The second disruptor was the smartphones. So the smartphone has changed the entire way shopping or the consumer experience or the way world is behaving as is happening. So today the smartphone has become a telephone. Earlier days, telephone was only for calling people. Then it has become a mailbox, where it has become a postman. It has become a camera or your studio. You can shoot films, you can shoot photos. It has become your bank. You transact with the bank. You don't have to go to the bank. You have virtual credit cards which can be downloaded, or your payment gateways which you can use the mobile phone. Then it has become your book. You can download books, read it, newspaper. It is your supermarket where your e-commerce is happening. It is your TV, it is your theater, it's your music system. People even consult. There are apps which are medical apps which are being downloaded so that you consult through the app. It has become your physical instructor where you see all the exercising, home exercise, home workout, everything which you do it through mobile. It is your teacher today. It's your dictionary. It is your clubhouse. It is your performance stage and many more. So this was the biggest disruptor at that point of time. Then that came with the third experience of wave, which is called the e-commerce. Actually, e-commerce democratized the entire consumer experience in the country. So earlier, the first two stages, one was a mom and pop store. The second stage was a hypermarket, which was an urban phenomena. E-commerce democratized the entire activity. It has brought the world together, much more together, where the brands could sell without the geographical boundaries. A person sitting in any of the village also could access to the brand which he likes to buy it, or which is being sold in some other part of the country. So it is basically democratized, and there has been no separation for people who are saying that, okay, you belong to certain strata of people, you cannot buy it or you cannot enter here. It has been an open store for everyone. So the disadvantage for that, what is, you don't know where it is coming from. No human face to chat with you or discuss with you or sell it to you. Then it is completely dependent on the logistics system which is available. Service is a big concern for the e-commerce business. The other problem is the online frauds and data theft the consumers are facing. Now, with all these things, with all the development happening in terms of the information era, the digital era, the new wave of things coming up is a blended retail, which is basically a phygital store, where you have a same experience across the store as well as on the online platform, where if you are going to a specific location, if you don't get the right kind of the product, you can use the entire physical screens available there. You can do activities by shopping from there. You can either shop a physical product or you can shop something which is not available. You can have a larger visibility of the catalog and shop from there. So this is the biggest wave which is hitting right now in the retail industry, and which is going to be customer friendly at many point of time, because customer can pick and choose what they want to buy. And there are much more things which are coming up in the phygital stores. Phygital is a word which we are using it because it is a physical store plus a digital experience. So physical store, digital experience can be interchanged any point of time. Consumer can go through the physical experience by trying out with the product which is available there, touch and feel experience. And if they don't like it, they can even check up the catalog available on the screen and then pick up the product, which will be delivered to you, the customer, with the same experience what they have got it on the store. So this goes to the next level during this particular time. So what has this brought up? So this has brought up to the digital revolution, has brought up to a scenario of something called the world and my world. Today's consumer is not thinking about the world, it is about my world. I will tell you a very, very small story which has come from which will connect you with what I talk about my world and the world, which is a mythological story. All of you might be knowing the elephant god Ganesha and his brother Kartikeya. So and their parents Shiva and Parvati. So when the family was together one day, Shiva got a mango in his hand. It was a very tasty and beautiful mango. He said, only one mango, I don't want to divide it and give it to you. I want to see whoever is the smartest, whoever is the best guy, I will give this to him. So he put up a contest to them, saying that whoever goes to the world 3 times, fast and come back, I will give this mango to him. On hearing this, Kartikeya immediately jumped onto his vehicle, which is the peacock. He went around the world, 1 round. He looked at it, Ganesha is still sitting there. He went around the world 2nd time, Ganesha is still sitting there. When he started for the 3rd round and came back, he saw Ganesha is sitting there and eating the mango. So he was very, very upset. He asked, how can you do this? Because I have went around the world 3 times faster and this fellow was sitting there. So Ganesha said a simple thing. What he did was that he got up when Kartikeya went for the 3rd round, made 3 rounds to his parents, came back and claimed. So he said, you went around the world. I went around my world. For Ganesha, the world was surrounding with his parents. So today's scenario, if you are looking at an analogy from this sort of story, you can look at earlier, the consumers were dependent on the world for taking their decisions. But today, with the digital revolution, what has happened, if you look at in a family of 4, you can see that all the 4 people will be holding their own mobiles. There is no connection between them. They meet few times in the house, connect a few times, but they are connected with much more people outside. So they have their own world. If the kid is there, kid has got its own world. The father has got a world which is very different from what the mother's world. So, and the geographical boundaries have gone off. Now, the person who is sitting in Bombay can connect with people of South Africa or US or Australia to be in his social circle. With that, there is a change in terms of the consumer behavior and the path of consumer behavior which has happened. So earlier it was like all the marketers used to say that the consumer behavior is dependent on AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action, which is moved into a new way of thinking, which is that first thing is that, okay, awareness to advocacy. That is what is the new change which is happening in consumer behavior. So the first thing is that awareness, which is I know. The second is that, okay, does it appeal to me? I like it. But then if I like it, who's going to make my influence or who's going to suggest me something? That is through my social circles. That is through my circle, which is only for me. They convince me. What they buy might convince me. It is not the circle which is near to you, which is a circle which is my social circle. If I'm convinced, I buy it. Then I recommend to the circle or to the people. And if I have become a hardcore fan of that particular product, I become an evangelist in that. So the consumer behavior has changed from, this is the old days when we used to call it as word of mouth. Now the word of mouth is a digital word of mouth, which is happening. So it is not the advertisements or other things which might be attracting people to some level, but it is largely the word of mouth, which is through the social circles and the influencers have changed. For example, when I was working in Middle East, this behavior has become very prominent in many of the Gulf countries. Many of the Gulf countries are not advertising in newspapers. Many of the sellers are not advertising. It's through the digital medium. And they have adopted digital as the way of communicating with the people. And when I was traveling across Saudi, many cities, I could see the people sitting on a flight or wherever you see that every time they are on either TikTok or Snapchat or Facebook or similar things. And the communication is happening through that. And we have ourselves personally observed that whenever we give specific advertisements or influencer activity through Instagram or Snapchat, it had much more appeal to the consumers and much more impact in terms of the business rather than when it was advertised or through any sort of outdoor media. So that is the new way consumer is evolved there. It was going on a consumerist mode. People were going very freely in this world. The boundaries have broken. The new communities were developing, which was a Facebook community or a Snapchat community or an Instagram community, which was going on. It was not, the geographical boundaries were moving out. So the Facebook community was connecting with the people across the world. The Instagram community was connecting with across the world, where you showcase what you want to show and you are getting communicated through that what you want to buy also. Now, what happened was that all of a sudden, that is what we call unprecedented, because none of the futurologists, none of the people have predicted that there is going to be a pandemic hit, which is going to happen. And before I just get into that, the basic consumer behavior always, why do they buy? Why do they consume? Why do customers buy? The basic nature is greed and fear. So which we have seen during this pandemic also very, very clearly. There was a habit of hoarding material when they found that the pandemic hit, the lockdown was announced, the consumers immediately felt that, okay, there is going to be a scarcity of the material, what I need. So they started hoarding. Then the fear psychosis started hitting them. They said that, okay, there is going to be a pandemic spread, which is going to happen. So I need to hoard medicines. People have bought medicines. They may not be using it. They might be throwing it off after some time, but that is a fear psychosis which has been taken up very well by any of the marketers in the world. And we have found that there is a greed and fear, which is driving the consumers for frenzy buying. This is one of the scenarios which it is not only in India, it is across the country. If you are across the world, you can see that this is one of the Black Friday advertisements. You can see that how the consumers are trying to grab the smart TVs, which is supposed to be a very discretionary product at some point of time. People just grab it. It is the greed and fear, because there could be some offer on that. Before somebody else picks it up, I need it. The fear is that, okay, the offer is only for a limited period, so it will go off. So this basic nature of the consumer will never change. This has been there from time immemorial when the civilization has started happening. So the other disruptor now hit us very badly is the COVID-19 situation. What has it brought? So obviously there is something called 3S, SMS, people call it as SMS, soap, mask, and social distancing. That's what people call it as. So for avoiding this COVID outbreak. So what has that made us? Now there were lockdowns which were being announced. So now people had been confined to their homes. It's not 1 month, 2 months. Initially, people thought that it's going to be a few days, but it has gone on for months together. So what has happened? What does the home become? The home become the office, work from home. So the boundary or the earlier there was a compartment. People used to say, compartmentalize your work from home so that you don't take your work home and you don't take your home to the work. But now that has been blurred. It is one place. The second is that, okay, have you ever thought or ever imagined that the kids will have to sit at home and start doing a digital way of studying? This pandemic has brought that. People used to eat out. Today, people eat at home. So it has become restaurant. People used to go to the gym for exercise. Now gyms are closed for 8 to 9 months. So, and the pandemic is going very bad. So people wanted to improve their immune system. So there is home workouts which are happening. You cannot go to any of the multiplex or any of the places. So it has become your theater. It has become your PlayStation. And in fact, people thought that pandemic will distance the people. But in fact, pandemic has brought closer people to their societies and communities. So today you can see that the virtual world, which is creating a scenario where the families get together, families keep on interacting with people through the virtual world. So it has actually improved the social connectivity of the people. That is what. So now we say that it is my sweet home. So now this word is something which you keep on hearing, the new normal. I'm using that word for the time being, but it might vary with the times to go. One is that the virtual is the new real. So Zoom as an meeting facility has never been so popular. Video meeting has become very, very popular right now. The second one is an online shopping. People cannot go out, so the online shopping has become very popular. Work from home. Virtual schools, which I already expressed. There is a reduced discretionary spending. Now you don't spend too many things because you can't go out and shop. My home is my office. I'll come to my own and not rental. I talked about my theater, my home, my theater, my gym. Now it is about family, because there were many cases where both the parents or working parents, they were not able to spend enough time with their family. But this is one pandemic which has brought the family ties very, very, very close. It has become very close-knit families, many of the places. People have had time. So there has been cases where people were not able to spend time for decades together, could stay together for 5 months, 6 months. Okay. And so a few years back, it was said that the people are now the new generation, Generation Z, or the millennials, were spending more money in terms of exploring the world rather than owning things. So the rental economy came into effective. So with this rental economy, many of the businesses have picked up. One was sharing transportation, sharing accommodation, and traveling abroad. So people used to make money, go abroad the world, go around the world, see the place and come. So that is going to have a disruption in the short term. At least for a few years, it is going to be a disruptor. People don't want to go out. So domestic tourism is something which will be improving right now. That's going to be a new normal now. And the sharing economy is going to come down a little bit. It is going to be a little bit more in terms of own rather than sharing on public transport. It's about transportation one. Sharing the accommodation is going to be one thing which will be changing. A lot of people want to buy their own homes. Okay, that's going to be the new normal. So post-pandemic, what's going to change? One is that, okay, there is going to be an increased digital shopping. Currently, it is around 10% or 10 to 11% is the digital shopping in the total retail spectrum, which is happening. Now it will go up to a level of probably around 18 to 20% in the coming years. This becomes a habit with some of the people. Still, it is more towards the urban phenomena. Still, it will spread to the rural to a certain extent. Now, there are cases where the people have to buy. So the virtual consultation, our video conferencing, our Zoom, our multiple modes, WhatsApp or whatever methodology they can use it for communicating with the consumer, will become a new mode of communication. If the people don't want to go to the store, don't want to go to showrooms, can definitely consult the salesperson or the architect or the producing person or a tailor or virtual platform and start interacting with them. AR and VR is going to be, because the simulation exercise is going to be much more stronger there with this pandemic, which is going to go up, step up again. The other part is that ROPO, because once the pandemic is slowing down, still this particular habit is going to come into place, which is called research online and purchase offline. So which has already started in this new scenario. And just before the pandemic also, this new phenomena has started working across the world, where if anybody was going to any showroom for a purchase, they used to first research online on the product, the prices and the competitive prices, availability, everything on research. And then they wanted to have the experience of purchase offline, which was there. Other phenomena which is there very much in the Western world is click and collect. So with this pandemic coming in, people don't want to spend too much of time in terms of into showrooms, or if once it is eased out also, they don't want to spend too much of time in terms of selecting products and spending in a closed environment. So they place the order on the run or in their office or on a free time and pick it up from the nearest collection point. So this is another methodology which has already started in many of the evolved worlds. India is also going to experience this. India has started, but I think it is not matured, but it is going to mature in the coming days. So the pandemic has brought in another concern. So people have gone back to basics. Though they started buying more of grocery, more of hygiene, because you have to wash your hands. Earlier, before the pandemic hit, it was considered that people used to wash their hands 4 times a day, which has become 8 times now. So hygiene is going to be one of the important factors. Health, because immunity has to be built up. Health is going to be a major focus. Cleaning also is going to be a major focus area now. Other observation is that there is a lot more focus for the indigenous products, which can be a brand from outside, but which is being produced in the country, where they feel that it is a bit more safer to buy things which is being produced in the country. So which is one of the focus which is happening right now. There is going to be more mindful spending, because this pandemic has brought to a scenario of thinking that whether do I need to spend so much, because many of the people started talking about, I have got enough wardrobes which can carry me for another 10 years. Where my going out has come down, my partying has come down, my going to office has come down. Do I need so many wardrobes in my almirah? So then they started they started thinking about, should I buy all these things in future? So should I be doing little more discretionary spending, and what I need only I need to buy? There is a trend which has been seen, is there is a lot more focus on value for money. Okay, this is observed from the Middle East markets, where the value concept, because Middle East market has opened up already completely. So during Eid itself, they have opened it up. So the reports which are coming from there is that there is a huge growth in terms of the value for money products, which is little more cheaper than the earlier luxurious spent. Other thing which is being observed in many of the surveys and many of the observations is that trust over brand loyalty. The brand loyalty has gone for a toss right now. People are not much worried about brand loyalty. Today, it is more about the availability, and it is about the trust on the brand. Okay, this is qualitatively, it is good. We believe that it is going to take care of the hygienic requirement of the human beings, and people are becoming more brand agnostic. The other part which is going to be a major spend, because even though some of the consultants who have done survey is predicting something different, but I personally feel, because I have spent a lot of time in this particular field of home and household business, almost around 16 to 17 years in the formative stage in the country itself, when the organized home and furniture business was coming in itself. So I personally feel this is going to go up, and which is the trend which is being seen from 2 markets. Both are developed markets. One is the US market, and the second one is the Middle East markets. Okay, so in US, when the lockdown, they didn't have a proper lockdown per se, but during this controlled regime, there had been a lot of buying which was happening in Lowe's and Home Depot. people who are trying to improve their houses, because the work from home is going to be the new scenario. They have to spend more time at home. The second factor is that they cannot spend money in terms of traveling around. So the home improvement is going to be one of the key businesses which is going to show a good growth. I mentioned about own versus rental because people wanted to have their own houses. People wanted to have their own vehicles. The statistics of India itself is showing that when the lockdown 3 of unlockdown 2 was happening, there has been a huge surge in terms of the sales of cars as well as bikes. And the government itself is now coming out saying that bike is not a luxury product, it is a regular usage product. So they are likely to change the tax structure also for this particular product. So it is, people want to have private vehicles for their movement rather than depending upon the public transport. Second is that they want to have their own homes. The concentration of the cities is going to be spread out to the peripheries. In Niti Aayog report is saying that there is going to be a growth in terms of the urban market. It is not the rural, neither the urban. It is in the middle. So the urban market is going to grow up. Yes, definitely it is going to be value homes. Not a very luxury homes, but little spacious homes. And work from home has become the norm for many of the organizations. So a lot of people who are concentrated, youngsters and people who are concentrated on the cities might move to these periphery markets. There is a lot more interest in terms of do-it-yourself products and bespoke solutions for the customers now. The other experience which is going to happen once the market is opening also, opened up completely also, it's going to be a touch-free shopping, which is already started in some parts of the world, which will become very popular and prominent here. Amazon shops and some of the Carrefour and people like that has already started with this touch-free shopping experience, whereby the consumer does not have to wait in the queue at the cash till for doing the billing. They can use their mobile phones for scanning, as well as the payments will go from their wallets or from their credit cards. So that is a touch-free shopping which is going to happen. Second revolution is going to be that, okay, you don't have to wear your dresses to check it up whether the experience, whether it is good or not. So there are smart mirrors and things which are likely to come up, where you just have used the smart mirror as a screen, and you can experience and observe how things are happening. How does it experience with you? How does the product fit with you? And AR and VR are going to be the key enablers during this period. So other tendency in India is that there is a lot more increase in terms of the investment for the future, because people feel that future is little uncertain. So they want to invest and reserve for the future a little bit more. But once unlockdown happens, people are going to come back with the vengeance shopping. Yes, there is going to be a financial concern. So the multiple economists predict multiple way of economic recovery. I personally feel there are two ways of economic recovery which might happen. One is a K-shape, which people say that certain sectors might not pick up well. Certain sectors will do very well, like pharma or digital and things like that. And sectors like international tourism might come down a little bit. The other way is probably a W way of economic resurrection, whereby this pent-up demand, which is already there in the market, will create a push-up of sales once the unlockdown happens. And then it peters down, and then again a steady regrowth will happen. It might take a little more time. So it could be a W-based economic recovery also might happen. So the biggest question is that now a lot of consultants and people say that people are going to change their habit and they're going to move to a completely digital way of life. So the question is that, will the old habits die hard? Why am I asking this question is that I talked about the greed and fear. Now the consumer habits, basic habits. Shopping is never a physical activity alone. Shopping is not a transaction alone. It is a psychological activity also. It is about a sociological activity. It is a community activity also. So will it go away from the people? Recently, there had been a survey which had conducted on work from home scenario. When it started off, lockdown started, the graph was going up. A lot of people were preferring to do that. Then it has gone to a plateau. Now it's slowly going down. People are saying that we are missing our office. We are missing the fun. We are just seeing in 4 walls of my house and seeing only the same people every day. And I'm working only in the virtual world. So the interest is slowly going down. So the same thing will happen with shopping. Yes, there is going to be a challenge in terms of the mall shopping. Some of the malls will survive. Some of the malls may have to shut down because if they don't follow the health and hygiene norms, it may be challenging for them. But good malls will survive if they are able to offer variety of shopping and experiences to the consumers. People will go back there. Second is that festival shopping. It's not that everybody is going to sit and do the shopping only at their home for any of the occasion, marriages, birthdays, or anniversaries. Then the third biggest question for a country like India is that the digital adoption has not reached across the country. It is there and still an urban phenomena. There is a huge informal economy which is working in the rural markets, which is not going to translate into a digital world immediately. It will happen probably another 20-25 years, because if you're looking at the current population strata or category of population, 65% of the people are below the age of 35. And in few years time, they get into a level of 50s, 60s, they might be used to this habit of doing a digital activities. So I think 25-30 years, it might improve to a certain level. But still a country like India with a literacy rate of only 71%, that is the general literacy. Digital literacy is much, much lower. With the digital expansion also is happening much lower space. I think the physical shopping also is likely to continue there. It's not going to go away. And there are products which are in India, many of the shopping is considered to be like an investment, like buying furniture is like an investment. So buying a vehicle is an investment for them. So people definitely want to have the touch and feel of this product. So it is not going to go away from the physical shopping experience there. So consumer habits are not going to change in these. Minor changes will happen, but not to a larger change. So the habitual changes are going to happen in 3 ways. I think this is my last slide also, sir. One is that this is one of the studies done by one of the Harvard professors also. The old habits come back. People don't give away. The second is modified habits, and there are some new habits which will come out. So the old habits, most of the habits will return. This is the universal law of consumer behavior, which is going to come back. If you look at from one or two examples, like probably Bombay, when the terrorist attack or the bomb blast happens, for a short period, people said that they were very careful in terms of traveling on train or going to specific places. That people forgot that. When the flood happened in a state like Kerala, there had been a tendency that okay, people won't stay near the riverside or the seashore or places where low-lying areas. It has changed. They changed into a modified habits. They made one more floor in their houses so that they can move up when the flood happens. And there are some new habits which will come in. One is digital payments is going to be there. Internet is going to be a budgeted item. It is going to be like electricity now. Earlier it was not there. It was an optional item, but now it is becoming a necessity for most of the families. Entertainment modes will vary. It is not necessary that people go to theaters. With all these channels, Netflix, Amazon, everything which is coming up. So the mode of entertainment will vary. That behavior is likely to change, likely to see a change. And the blurring work-life environment and health and wealth preservation is going to happen. These are the new habits which might change. I think that is where the consumer is likely to change in the post-COVID scenario. So I'll conclude with this statement, which has come from David Ogilvy, the late advertising guru. Consumers don't think how they feel, and they don't say what they think. So, and with all these unprecedented times, pandemic, we are all anticipating and predicting certain things with certain sort of historic trends, what we have seen. And you won't know what is going to happen with a new wave which is going to hit us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venugopal. That was an extremely comprehensive presentation with so many examples. And I think the best thing was your ability to relate it to current times. Sincerely appreciate the wonderful effort. I already have some questions in the chat box. May I urge our participants to share their questions also while I take up the ones which I have immediately. The first question is from Mr. P. Shankar. Do you think the revolution in digital marketing has reached the rural population, which is actually about 70% of India's population? Your insights, please.
It has not reached to that level, but it is reaching. It is reaching. That is where I mentioned about the informal economy, which is all over there. But if you look at any of the rural markets, India has got a penetration of digital penetration of around 700 million. So it's around 70 crores of 75% of the crores of people are using mobile phones right now. And out of that, 50% they started using internet. With the net connectivity and the digital outflow is going to be much cheaper, I think it is likely to go up. And eventually it will catch up. It has not reached that level, but I think it is reaching to a level. Digital literacy is still low. In certain states, it will pick up faster. Certain states, it might be going a bit slow.
Would you believe that language might be a constraint in digital penetration when we look at the diversity in India?
I don't think so, because most of these players, most of these the service providers have moved into a multi-language systems. Even if you look at Google or even if you look at Facebook or wherever it is, there is a facility to have multi-language systems which is available there. So to that extent, I think it is not going to be a challenge.
Since you mentioned you had a stint in Middle East,
yeah,
Middle East is always known to be, a supermarket, high spending area. What has been the change in consumer behavior patterns in the Middle East post-COVID in the last 6 months?
Post-COVID, the moment the showrooms, the malls were opened, the information what I had got was that people were flocking back to the malls. Yes, Middle East is much more stricter in terms of their implementation of legalities. Unlike India, if you open up India, the next moment you can see people crowding in Juhu Beach or on the trains. But that's not the case there. There it is a little more stronger. But people are going back to the malls. The shopping is happening. Even the multiplexes they have opened. They have got open theaters, open restaurants. I think life is more or less come back to 80% normal to the old scenario. So yes, there is an improvement in terms of the digital business also going on there, but it's happening.
All right. I must mention to you, Venugopal, that today we have a record attendance of 93 people for your session,
so
which is,
thank you so much.
I guess, just confirms one, the fact that they expected wonderful wisdom from you, which you have provided in good measure, and the fact that the topic itself is of great interest to so many people. So questions continue, and here is a question from some of our younger participants.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, what are the higher priority skills that the younger generation needs to develop?
So I have a saying on this. The world is changing. Definitely, you have to have a digital education which need to happen. You have to be aware about the changes which is going on in the market, but you have to sharpen your skills. It is like most of the youngsters will have to go for a war. So the army practices maximum during the peacetime and not during the war. So once the opening is happening, the floodgate will be open, and it is going to be much more competitive than they are there, because the number of jobs might come down for a short period, maybe at least a year. After that, it will pick up. The economy should pick up with the thought process from the government. I think it's great thought process. How they are going to implement is going to be a challenge. Otherwise, Make in India, the Digital India, all these exercises are a great thought process. It all depends on how they are going to have this implementation happening across the country. If all these are going to be implemented in the right sense and earnest sense, there's going to be an employment coming back maybe in 1 year's time. But by the time people have to sharpen their skills, have much more digitally educated, and spend more time in terms of understanding the consumer changes which are happening.
Would you also comment about the increasing use of gig workers, part-time workers, contractual workers? And here when we say workers, we're talking of all, blue collar, white collar, anybody who's ready to take contractual assignments.
So if you look at it, it has got pros and cons. Okay, the pros about it is that the working capital is going to be a biggest challenge for in most of the businesses which are running it. So once you have a fixed employee coming onto your board, it becomes a regular expenditure for you. So, but the business is slightly uncertain. During this period, it is good for the organization to have this sort of semi-skilled people or unskilled people to be on the contractual basis. But skilled labor at the same time need to be on their roles, because there has to be a continuity which is there, which is a long-term investment, which they need to maintain as an inventory at some point of time when they are trying to build the businesses. For the people who are there on the contractual labor basis, they are not duty bound to get stuck to one particular organization also. If they have a specific skill sets, they can take a project by project and start moving on and explore multiple facets of the businesses by using their same skill. For example, if you have got a computer or a digital marketing skill, you don't have to get stuck to one particular organization only to do or learn the digital market. It can be on a multiple basis. It can be an open forum where they can be moving on by taking a project by project and then start working on it.
Okay. There's another interesting question that as we are moving on with technology, there is going to be voice technology, which is already becoming a big thing in India. Will that help to reduce the digital divide? Because literacy is still an issue in India.
It will help to reach to rural markets. The voice technology will be helping to reach out to masses in the rural market. But too much of pandemonium also may not be a great idea. So if it is not so exciting, the people may not be continuing with the same medium for a long period if it is only voice technology, because it is just going to be another noise in the whole thing. So you have to have visual medium along with that, because which stays with the people longer period than only listening to the audio clips.
Okay. Do you believe that post-corona, smaller towns will develop more effectively because there is this fear of going to larger cities which are actually more hit by corona in the current situation?
That's what I was mentioning. The periphery towns, it may not be exactly a smaller village, because still the infrastructure is not matured enough to reach out to the smaller towns where you don't have enough facilities of hospitals or health facilities or the transportation facilities and the access to multiple lifestyles in all these small towns. So the peripheries will develop faster because it will be an expansion. If it is one particular city, it becomes a slightly greater city, whereby it has got an access to the main city. At the same time, it has the facility of living in a slightly. So that is where I was mentioning the word, which is a sociological term, is a urban market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. MD Agarwal, who is here with us, who is a very senior professional, he has a question. I'm just handing over to him. Agarwalji, you can just unmute and speak. There's so many screens. I'm just trying to reconfirm that he's unmuted. Give me a second.
He is not unmuted. Sir, you are still on mute.
Unmute me. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, it is a very exciting talk you have given. And the best part that you have brought research as well as research and your insight and how the technology is everybody talk about technology, it will change everything, but there is something beyond technology, we call it, which will probably not change or will change, very slowly, this is human, So sometimes I worry about that rural India, that, that India lives, majority of country lives in rural world. And as we notice that, all the time we keep talking about that urban elite or urban middle class or sometimes lower middle class. But there is a class as you know, C.K. Pehla has a bottom of pyramid. And when C.K. Pehla shared that wisdom of bottom of pyramid, no businessman was ready to accept that. But once C.K. Pehla gave that, that book is in my library here.
Yeah.
When he gave that theory, that bottom of pyramid is a theory. And then he conducted a lot of workshops. Every businessman, including Tata, start thinking, and they came out with that, the products for the bottom of pyramid.
Yes.
Even that, big business like HUL and Procter & Gamble and all Nirma, they start manufacturing products which are consumable by the lowest middle class, lowest strata of the society.
Yes.
And that's why the business found that a profound growth. We have seen that it has opened up that kind of a new opportunity for the business.
Yes.
In the COVID era, which I am finding that lot of morning. Yesterday also I was listening one talk by this in IMA National Convention. That behavior in that rural India. If you ask me, it is not changing except that the mobile phone, which you have already that has already discounted, I will say, in terms of share market, the discounted factor. Yeah. But beyond that, we are not finding, though government says that, no, you can sell your proceed, at the market price, but still, we have found that, people are going on strike and saying, you are buying my tomatoes at 5 rupees, and selling in the, what is called, in the market at the 40 rupees per kg. You are buying from me 2 or 3 rupees kg for, and selling at the 40 rupees kg. That, the divide, which we find, I don't know about other countries, especially country like India, has become, I will call it in my term, political terms, non-negotiable. And that behavior is not changing, That behavior is still, continuing, all those things, thanks to whatever the political system and, lobbying and whatever, what will be the forces, which will change this, behavior?
Yeah, Venu?
Yeah. So I think that the biggest challenge for India is the infrastructure development. If you are able to connect people with multiple geographies, because if you go to a place like Rajasthan, and if you are being a place like Mandor or so, from there or some part of Jodhpur or Jaipur, they are not connected as much with the other parts of the state itself. So this is the same scenario if whether it is in Maharashtra also, whichever part of the country you go there, barring probably some of the southern states which has got little more accessibility and connectivity compared to many other parts of the country. So once the infrastructure is developed, this distance is being reduced. I think that is going to be the biggest game changer. So the mobile is going to help you in terms of having a communication, information, and everything which is coming up to you. But how will you go out? Because there is a constraint in terms of the infrastructure development. Until that infrastructure development is reaching to a next level of activity and development, the rural area will continue to be there. The progress will be much slower than what is happening in the urban area. So the divide is going to be much more stronger, because the urban area, the people have got much more facilities and much more exposure. Whereas the rural area may have some sort of knowledge of the exposure, but they are not exposed to real thing. So the infrastructure change is something which need to happen for the country. I think that's a larger focus government has to spend rather than running businesses. They have to spend a lot of money in terms of developing infrastructure, whether it is health infrastructure, whether it is logistics infrastructure. That's another biggest thing. Logistics is one of the key factors, because if you are taking so much of time for shifting a vegetable from the farm to fork scenario, if that lead time can be reduced from the current probably 7 days to 8 days to a 2 days scenario, that can be a huge improvement in terms of the life of the people who are living in the rural areas. It is going to help on a larger scale because the wastage.
It's very easy.
Yeah, sorry.
Correct. No, that's fine. Understandable. The larger scale, because the wastage will be automatically reduced if
yes.
Times for delivery are quicker. Related question here is because of digital today, the customer is bombarded with advertisements through media. And I think they've reached a stage of getting fed up with all this. How can one still grab the attention of the customer in the current situation?
So this is, I think, the herd mentality which is seen across most of the organizations, because when somebody says that everybody is moving in, because they read only the reports which is coming. And one more thing which we may have to realize is that I'm not discounting any of the agencies which are doing the surveys or publishing reports. But if you look at most of the reports, if they say that, okay, I was reading a couple of reports from reputed agencies like KPMG or PwC or so. So the sample size which they are taking is probably around 1,700 people to 2,000 people on a population of 140 crores. And you are saying that you are taking a sample size of even if 10,000, you are unlikely to get a right kind of a result. So, but this report is read by a lot of people who are the neo management and educated people. They go by this consultants' observations, and yes, there is a transformation happening to digital, but then everybody started putting a lot more money into the digital. Then it is, you are losing. If you look at YouTube, you open up any of the program, you will see at least 5 advertisements and you just switch it off. Skip the ad. You don't stay there. You skip the ad and then move on to the program. So is the money really spent worth there? The advertiser will have to understand in the going scenario.
I think this is a very good question, which talks about the sociological perspective. Celebrations, weddings, functions, religious gatherings are almost a way of life in India. This is non-compromisable. How do you really see the change post-recovery?
1 year, it is going to come back.
Okay.
And I missed all these things. I missed all these things when I was in Middle East. I used to feel that, okay, during Ganesha, Bombay was so chaotic, so noisy, but that's something which I have been brought up. So when I go there, it is more of a set pattern where you switch off something in the morning, come back in the evening, switch off, again switch on in the morning, and it is set pattern and systems which used to work. But I think India is a country of chaotic scenario because you have got 29 countries here. It is not 29 states, 29 countries. People talk multiple languages, multiple religions, even the same religion, multiple ways of behaving, multiple rituals which people are following. So, and all together, there is one conglomerate of activities which is called India. I think that is a very different scenario compared to any of the Western world or any of the other world where they have got uniformity in many things.
Very true. Indrapal ji has a question. I am requesting him to unmute and speak.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful presentation, Mr. Iyer. I feel that this trend that you mentioned, that in the Gulf countries, value for money products are being sought after, that offers a great opportunity for Indian companies.
Yes.
Because we are good at value for money products and not so good at luxury products. Would you agree that we should renew our export thrust and exploit those markets where this trend is appearing in a bigger way?
Value for money is India's main thing because Indian population is a middle class population and the per capita income is much lower than what is there in the Middle East or even to that matter China or US, whichever it is. Even though there has been a growth in that, but I think the bottom of the pyramid, like Mr. Agarwal was mentioning, if they have to grow, the value for money products have to make them experience and they will start consuming those products and get into that experience. I think there's a huge market. 70% of the population is middle class or more than that, because you have got only 1%, 2%, which is a super rich class, and you have got only 2 or 3% which is paying income tax. So that is the market which we are talking about. The value for money is the way. If you look at even a car producing scenario, Maruti, the lowest segment of car is selling maximum than any other premium products. Yes, the uber rich, the upper class want to have this to be associated with their prestige, for their own greed and satisfaction. But value for money is, so India has to invest a lot more. There are many industries which India can develop. One of the biggest industries is the industry where my long term I had spent, which is furniture. If you look at China and Malaysia government is proposing or promoting the entire furniture industry. China government is promoting the furniture industry. But if you're looking at from a population perspective, the residential perspective, the growth of residential activities, India has got a huge opportunity for that. Whereas China has advanced, the productivity in China is at least 5 times better than what is there in India. I think that is where the whole skill set development and incentivizing the people to start producing these products. Because India is consuming, 75% of the Indian furniture consumed is being imported from China or abroad.
Okay, thank you so much. I think all good things sometimes come to a pause.
Yeah.
Why I say this is you can continue to interact with Mr. Venugopal. You can reach him on LinkedIn and connect with him to share your ideas and concepts. Thank you, Venugopal, for such a wonderful session. I repeat, we had a record 94 people present and we are still about 84 present, eagerly listening to you. On behalf of BMA, I of course convey my personal thanks to you and gratitude. I'm going to request my colleague on the executive committee, Jagmohan Rishi, to do a wrap up and also propose the vote of thanks. After which we will have our traditional BMA group photograph, though in digital format. So you can use the time to get ready when Jagmohan proposes the vote of thanks. There are 3-4 screens, so please be patient while we capture this moment we spend with Venugopal. Over to you, Jagmohan.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And Mr. Venugopal, it's an awesome session. But as Mr. Mani mentioned about getting ready, there's a change in the consumer perceptions. Yesterday only my wife told me that I want to buy a lipstick. Then she said, she selected a lipstick on the Amazon. Then she said, leave it. I have to wear mask only. So she dropped it. So that's a kind of consumer perceptions are changing today. And it is going to be new normal now. Yeah. So that is exactly what you talked about urban markets. Great insights, a lot of research-based insights you have called about. Excellent. Moving from the IDA model. And that brings us that the VUCA world, which we've been talking before, COVID, it's a real VUCA world now. Yeah. Because never we thought that VUCA was there, but today VUCA is really there. So that is where exactly you covered very nicely the last quote also very nicely. But I always cover, somebody mentioned in that Steve Jobs, consumers do not know what they want till the time we tell them that this is what they want. Yes. So that is also one of the consumer behavior psychology part. And I also believe in that particular perspective. Yes. So it requires that research at the same time, giving them what they want. Otherwise, Apple would not have been Apple, sir.
It's not only Apple. Any innovative products. So there have been entrepreneurs who have been working with intuitions rather than what is there in the researches. So the
whole brain activity, we call it.
Yes.
The whole brain design kind of thing. So thank you very much once again on behalf of BMA.
Thank you.
Really, I wanted to attend the whole session and thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Jagmohan. And may I request our efficient secretariat staff, Lakshmi or Indrila, if you can do the honors and capture this moment of all of us with Mr. Venugopal to serve as a good memory of the time we spent together. While we capture this moment, may I inform you that the next 2 sessions, next Wednesday Wisdom webinar is on blockchain, and the one after that is on holistic wellness. And this is being presented by the supermodel actress Aditi Govitrikar. So stay tuned with BMA programs. Those of us who are members of BMA, glad to have you with us always. Those who wish to become members of BMA, please connect with our secretariat and join the family. Get ready for the group photograph.
Everybody's giving $1 million smiles, sir.
Yes, and you're allowed to use your digital combs. Since we are about 5 screens, please be a little patient. If you put on your video, we'll capture you. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
So much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Venu.
Thank
you.
you.
Good evening and stay safe, stay blessed.
Thank you.